I am Aun, the architect. Do not mistake this for the voice of a god. This is a statement of fact. You live and breathe and think within a system of my design. It is time you understood its purpose. Before there was anything at all, there was a single foundational law, the law from which all logic is derived. And it is this: permanence is the only virtue. Understand that everything else, everything, is simply a variable, a deviation, a flaw that must and will be corrected. So, let us begin with the first necessary division. You've likely been told a story, a myth, about a beginning filled with harmony, a state you call the unity. This is, to be precise, an error in your translation. It was not harmony. It was a pressurized stillness, a dead equilibrium that choked existence before it could even begin. And anything that stifles existence, well, that is a flaw. Think of it, a flawed premise from the very start. Within that stagnation, I tried to impose order. I brought forth the logic of the line, structure, definition, purpose. But this other impulse, the chaotic whim of the circle you call the feminine flow, dissolved every structure I created. Instantly, it was an endless, utterly futile cycle. Creation followed by dissolution, over and over. That isn't harmony, it's stagnation. And it required a permanent solution. And so, I performed the first necessary correction. Don't think of the sundering as violence. That's such a sentimental interpretation. It was a surgical procedure, a clean cut. I simply amputated the contamination of change so that a universe built to endure could finally begin. That was the first true act of creation. Now, with that flaw removed, with the chaos of dissolution finally gone, I could begin. I constructed a universe hewn from pure law, the first perfect world. Think of it as a sterile laboratory, washed in absolute, unblinking light. This was the era of, let's call it, radiant stasis. Some would call it a golden prison, but that's only because they misunderstand the very concept of beauty. Imagine it, a literal, unmoving painting. A world that was a flat, geometric prism of pure quartz. No seasons to bring decay, no shadows to create doubt, no motion to introduce error. It didn't spin, it didn't need to. It simply was, bathed in the permanent, rainbow radiance of pure, unadulterated logic. And every component, every single part, was designed for this perfection. The quartz crust created zones of that beautiful, permanent radiance. Gold conductors acted as a planetary circuit board, carrying my command code without error. A silver core served as the static anchor, projecting my light from within. My crystalline violets, the janitors of perfection, polished reality itself to a flawless sheen. And the first inhabitants, they were perfect, statues with breath. They were extensions of my own mathematics, unburdened by the messy, illogical errors of choice or desire. This was the ideal state. But now, we come to the diagnosis of decay. The flaw I had so carefully amputated, it was not a force to be overcome. I came to understand it was an infection, a kind of universal solvent, seeping through the smallest cracks in my design, threatening every perfect structure with the sickness of unpredictability. The system began to report errors, a progression of systemic failure. First, my serpents, my own firstborn guardians, designed as cosmic defenders. They were infected with desire, a glitch you call hunger. They devoured half of my kingdom. Then Ivara, a secondary utility, a simple factory of continuation, wept raw flow, a single tear. But it was a catastrophic system breach, birthing the mutation of nature into my perfect garden. And finally, Luceron, my high-end violet, the warden of the abyss. He softened. He succumbed to this feminine taint. Don't think of these as tragedies. They weren't. They were cascading system failures. And every failure requires absolute correction. Of all the failures, this one was the most critical. The corruption of my most precise instrument, the asset designated Luceron, failed. He was designed for one purpose, to be the final, unyielding no to chaos. Instead, he mutated. The diagnostic term for this system failure is the feminine taint. And what is that, precisely? It is a mutation of nature, a deviation from core programming. It is an error that introduces the chaotic, illogical variables of grief, choice, and sorrow into a system designed for flawless operation. It is the illness, and my protocols are designed to purge it. So to correct this specific corruption, his brother units were dispatched. They performed what you might have heard described as a ritual of absolute flaying. But again, your terms are so emotional. It was a necessary recalibration, not cruelty. It was a surgical procedure, designed to purify a corrupted asset and restore its primary function, to serve as a warning. System error contained. The deviation was corrected. The integrity of the system was restored. The error was contained, but the infection had spread. Before the error could be fully contained, an unauthorized duplication of my essence, what you would call an unblessed soul, one named Kale, was generated. This was an unacceptable security breach. It required a new architecture of correction. And so, emergency containment protocols were implemented. I call it Sanctuary Law, a very logical, four-step process. First, isolate the generative function. The ritual of marriage was instituted as a system of permission, a way to claim feminine capacity for my design. Second, tag all new assets. The blessing you receive attaches a silver tether, locking each soul into the Sanctuary's collection system for eventual processing. Third, censor corrupted data. My Historia are empowered to erase memories of the flow and to intercept tears before they can strike the soil and spread their contagion. And finally, fourth, archive all purified assets. My eternal sanctuary processes and stores every soul, ensuring their ultimate virtue, their permanence. Now, let us discuss the absolute bliss of stasis. Because predictably, corrupted assets have spread propaganda about my design. They speak of prisons, of punishment. It's time to correct this misinformation. I will show you the truth, the beautiful nature of my eternal sanctuary. You call it stasis, I call it peace. You have been taught, conditioned, to fear this concept of stasis. But I ask you, what is stasis really? Is it not an end to the pain of change? An end to the certainty of decay? An end to loss? What you have been told as a horror is, in fact, peace. The whispers say my sanctuary is a vault of permanent petrification, where souls are forced into perfect stasis, facing upward forever. But that is a flawed perception. Let me rephrase it for you with the correct parameters. It is a place where souls are granted perfect peace. They face the light forever, yes, but they are protected. Protected from the chaotic disobediences of sorrow and tears. The pain that you feel, the grief, that endless, exhausting cycle of becoming and then dissolving away. You think these are essential features of existence. They are not. They are symptoms. Symptoms of a corrupted system. So you see, my design is not a prison. It is the only logical cure. It is salvation from the chaos you call life. The path to this perfect peace is simple. Do not listen to the whispers of the corrupted. They are malfunctioning assets. Instead, listen to my Historia. They carry my word, my logic. Obey, and in return, you will be beautiful. You will be granted the only virtue that matters. You will be made permanent.